Hi, and welcome to this video on creating Python variables, understanding its operations, and its data types. Hi, I'm Raghavendra, an expert in AI, ML, and data engineering. By the end of this video, you will be able to demonstrate the basic types in Python, demonstrate the various operations performed on basic types, demonstrate how to use print and input functions in Python, demonstrate how to check the type of a variable in Python. Let's look at our first code in Python. We're going to print a message, hello Python. So here is the code for that. I have a string hello Python and I'm going to assign it to a variable x. By the way, this is the assignment operator. So let me execute it. To execute a cell in the Jupyter notebook, I'm going to hit Control Enter. So the cell is executed and we have the string hello Python being stored in this Python variable x. So now let's print the value of this variable. So for that we have a print function. I'm going to pass x into that function as an argument and let me print it out. Here you go. You see the output of the variable hello Python being displayed on the screen. Now let's store a number 15 in a variable y and try to print it out. Yep, so here you see the output. So in the first case, we had a string which was stored in a Python variable, and now we have an integer, a whole number being stored in a Python variable, and we printed it. So let's now check the type or the data type of these variables. So for that we have a function called as type. We are going to print the type of x and y variables which we have created. So type of x, when I execute it, you're going to see something called as class str, which means that x, even though for the sake of simplicity we have used the terminology as a variable, in fact x is an object in Python and it belongs to string class. So the reason is we have a string value which is being assigned there and x is a string object. Likewise, let's check the type of object y. Yep, so it belongs to class integer. So y is an object of class integer. Now let's create two more variables, f and b. In f, I'm going to store 7.5 and in b, I'm going to store a Boolean value which can be either true or false. And now let's check what happens when I store these values. Please note, for a Boolean value, you're not supposed to put them in quotes. So let's try to print the type of these objects, f and b. So f has a decimal value there and it belongs to class float, and b is a Boolean type and it belongs to class bool. So to summarize, Python objects can be numeric, either whole numbers, integers, or float. It can be of string types, taking a sequence of characters, and we have seen that we have to enclose them in either single quotes or it can as well be in double quotes. Boolean values taking true or false. Let's move on and try to find out the output of this statement. So I have a number 17 in single quotes. So 17 is a number, so it is in single quotes. So whether the type is going to be integer or string, let's figure it out. So when I execute it, you can see that this is a string literal and it belongs to class string. So anything which is quoted in Python is going to be a string. Moving on further, our Python can be used as a calculator to perform some basic operations, basic mathematical operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So we store 3 in x, 4 in y, and 100 in z. So let's see what happens when we perform some of the basic operations using Python. So I'm going to perform a basic operation using plus, x plus y. It's just going to add the values in x plus y. You're going to get 7. X minus y, you're going to get a value of -1. You're subtracting x into y. So asterisk here is for multiplication. X percentage y. So here you are performing the modulus. You're taking the remainder after division. It's 3. X star star y. Right? You're taking the exponentation. So x to the power of y. So you get a value of 81. So z divided by x. You are dividing. It is 33.3333. And z /x. So double slash is similar to a single slash. It also does the division, but it takes the floor of the number after division. If the quotient after division is 33.33, floor of this number is 33. So let's see what happens when you divide x, when you divide z by x and take a floor of that number, you get 33. In the previous code, you have seen z by x was 33.33 and floor of that is going to be 33, as you see when you use the operator of double slash operator. Let's move on and try to use an equality operator between an integer object and an integer value. So for that, I'm going to have two integer objects, a is equal to 5 and b is equal to 7. I have that now. Now I'm comparing if a is exactly equal to. So the double equal to operator is the equality or check operator. I'm checking if a exactly contains 5. And the next statement is if b exactly contains 6. I'm going to check that out. So here you see the output a indeed contains a value 5. So hence you see a message true, but b does not contain 6, it contains 7. So you get a message false. You can use all the relational operators like less than, greater than, and so on against numerical values. Yep. Let's move on further and let's understand about the string types. So we're going to take two string objects, a and b. I save hi in a, hello in b, and let's print them out. Now we have seen a mathematical operator plus used between numbers. But now let's see an interesting scenario of what happens when you use plus between two strings. So a plus b, when I try to print the output where a and b are strings, when I use plus between two strings, you can see that the two strings get concatenated. So plus on numbers is used to add and plus on string is used to concatenate. Now let's take another interesting example here. I have a string a is equal to 3 in quotes. So a is a string, it's not a number by the way. So I say a plus 1. So let's see what happens. You're going to get an error. So Python cannot understand if you want to take a string and add a number to it, right? So Python cannot understand whether you will have to add or whether you'll have to concatenate. So it's going to throw you an error. So now to avoid this error, what we will have to do is we'll have to typecast a, which has a string 3, and we'll have to convert it to integer, and then we will have to perform a numerical addition there. So I say int of a, so that's going to convert a to integer, which is initially of string, and then I'm going to add it with 1. So let me execute this. You're going to see the value of 4. Another interesting operation on strings, that is I take a as hi, and that's a string definitely. I'm going to say a star 3. So star with numbers multiplied, and let's see what happens here. You see the string being replicated. So star when used with number, when used with two numbers, multiplied the two numbers, but when star followed by a number, when used on a string, is going to replicate that number n times. Okay, so we have seen print function is going to print the value. So let's quickly take an example of how are we going to take user input in Python. So if we have an input function in Python, so here is the code for that. Input is a function. It takes an argument which will be displayed as a prompt message. So let me execute this. So the argument to the input function, as you can observe, is what's your name will be displayed as a prompt message. The input function, when executed, it's going to give you a text box to enter your input, right? Say I'm going to enter the input as, say, Raghu, right? So when you enter this input and when you hit enter, the value you have entered in the text box is going to be saved in the variable which you have assigned, or the object which you have assigned to the output of the input function, right? So that's Raghu is going to be saved in name. Now let's print that variable. So instead of just printing it, I'll print a string that is nice to meet you in double quotes, followed by a comma, followed by the variable, comma, followed by an exclamation. So I need not just print the value of Python objects or variables, but I can as well print them along with a string message to make it more meaningful. So here you go. You see the message being printed. Along with that, you also see the output of the variable name also being printed, right? Next, what I do is I'm going to input another value here, that is age. So I'm going to say 25. Hit and enter. Now 25 is going to be saved in age. Now I'm a little curious to figure out what is the type of these variables which we have created, name and age. Let's check them out. So you have the type of both name and age is going to be of string type. So we conclude that any input you take from the keyboard is going to be of string type. And if you want to enter some numbers, so they'll also be in string types. If you want to later perform any mathematical operations, it's your responsibility to convert it to the appropriate types. Yep. So say suppose I want to add something on age, so I'll have to explicitly convert age to integers, right? So far we have discussed various basic types of integer, float, Boolean, string. So these are all called as basic types, right? Where every Python object is going to take a single value. You had a single integer, you had a single float, you had single strings, and so on. Now let's move on and look at a simple collection in Python. So we are going to create a list. List is a heterogeneous collection. And so here I'm creating a list. So this is the syntax for creating a list. I put a square bracket and I'm going to have all the elements 2, a as string, 4.5 as in float, false, which is a Boolean value. Put everything within the square bracket, a comma separated list. I prepare them and assign it to an object called as LST. Let me print that out. Here you go. You have 2, a, 4.5 and false all being printed over here. So let me check the type of this object, LST. Class is going to belong, LST is going to belong to the class list. In this video, you have learned int, float are numeric types along with Boolean and strings. Plus, minus, star, slash are some of the numerical operators. Plus operator adds to numeric types and concatenates string types. List is a collection in Python which allows us to store heterogeneous elements. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next video.